This is a ginger bug, and it's how I make fizzy ginger beer at home. No fancy gear, no long ingredients list, just sugar, ginger and thyme. I'll show you how to make it from scratch, how to use it to brew your own refreshing ginger beer, and even how to turn it into homemade fruit sodas. So let's get into it. Similar to a sourdough starter, a ginger bug is made by cultivating wild yeast and other beneficial microbes. It's called a bug because that's what microbes are informally called. The first thing we need for a bug is, of course, ginger. You want to make sure you get fresh organic ginger. Avoid anything that's been washed with chemicals or irradiated to kill microbes. Seeing dirt on your ginger is usually a good sign. Next, give your ginger a proper wash to remove all the visible dirt. For our ginger bug, we'll be keeping the skin on. That skin is where all the wild yeast and beneficial microbes live, the ones we want doing the work. Even after a proper wash, the skin will still hold on to those microbes we want. That's why organic ginger is so important. You're bringing life into the jar, not just flavor. This is about 4 ounces of ginger, and I'm going to grate it. You can also chop it up or blend it, but I like the control I have when I grate my ginger. Set that aside for now and grab a glass jar. I'm using a mason jar that holds roughly 2 cups. To my jar, I'm adding 1/4 cup of distilled water. Next, add 1 tablespoon of sugar. This is Jamaican brown sugar, but pretty much any sugar will work. That sugar is what the yeast will eat to start the fermentation. Now, add a tablespoon of ginger. Grating all the ginger we need in one go is great for workflow. Anytime we need to feed the bug, we can just grab some from the fridge. The ginger seeds the mixture with wild yeast, and the starches in the ginger give the bug an extra food source. The yeast will consume the sugar and give off carbon dioxide. Our ginger bug needs to breathe, so I'm covering the mason jar with a piece of cheesecloth. Use a rubber band to hold it snug. It doesn't have to be cheesecloth, but whatever you're using should allow some air exchange. Another important step is to name and date your jar. It really helps with tracking your progress. This will sit on the shelf at room temperature for a day before I feed it again. On day 2, your ginger bug might look very bubbly and active. That's a great sign of good microbial activity. Just like with a sourdough starter, these early microbes are not necessarily the ones we want, so continue feeding. I'll be feeding this the exact same way: a tablespoon of sugar, 1/4 cups of water, and a tablespoon of ginger. Early activity is mostly from fast growing microbes that show up first, but they don't make a strong, stable bug. Feeding consistently helps the right ones take over. And that will sit on my shelf at room temperature for another day. On day 3, the ginger bug is still very active. You could even use it at this stage and get great results. However, the microbes giving us the early activity are not very robust, so we need to continue feeding. On day 4, there's no visible activity. It's really easy to think that you might have killed your bug, but don't panic, it's totally fine. Even though it looks like nothing is happening, the microbes are still in there adjusting, so just feed as usual. Day 5 also has very little activity. As long as your bug doesn't smell rotten or look off, just keep feeding. The most important thing is to stay consistent with feeding. Trust the process. On day 6, there's still very little activity, but this is around the time I know the bug starts to pick up. So I'm feeding it 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of ginger, and I'm skipping the water. Give that a quick mix and place it back on the shelf. After about 6 hours, my ginger bug is now very active and ready to be used. After that rebalancing period, your ginger bug will now be much more robust than the early activity you saw on days 2 and 3. My last ginger bug only took 5 days, with the slowdown hitting on day 3, but that week was hot. This one took longer because it's been raining every day, so the temperatures have been cooler. For more reliable results, place your ginger bug somewhere consistently warm. You can keep feeding it daily with just sugar, as long as you're making fizzy drinks often. The ginger is already in there and the microbes just need fuel. If not, store it in the fridge and feed it once a week. Just take it out and let it get active again when you're ready to use it. Just make sure you feed it after each use and you will have a ginger bug that lasts indefinitely. A traditional Jamaican ginger beer is made by steeping or boiling ginger with spices like pimento, cloves, or cinnamon, maybe with lime or lemon zest and juice, and then left to ferment for between 1 and 3 days. There are a few variations, but they don't typically include the use of a ginger bug. For this ginger beer, I'm keeping it a lot simpler. To my blender, I'm adding about 3 ounces of fresh ginger, properly washed with the skin and everything. That's a little over a cup of Jamaican brown sugar. It looks like a lot, but our yeast will be feeding on it aggressively. Now, here's a fun little twist. These are ginger tea packets. They make a delicious tea, but they can also serve a great function in our ginger beer. It's essentially ginger extract with a bulking agent to make it more soluble. This has a very different flavor than fresh ginger. It's less spicy, but when combined, you get a much fuller, deeper ginger flavor that's extremely satisfying. I'm adding 2 packets. Next, add water. My blender holds around 20 ounces, so that's roughly 15 ounces of water. After blending, I'm going to run this through a strainer. That smells really good. Now that we have our delicious ginger juice, let's grab some of that ginger bug. That's exactly what you want to see. A lot of fizzing and bubbling. I want quarter cup of ginger bug, so I'm going to give it a quick strain. Next, add the strained ginger bug to the ginger juice. Did I mention how good this smells? It's like a hit of fresh ginger with a spicy kick at the end. Even though this looks like muddy water, let's give it a taste. That's real good. This is a swing top bottle. It's designed to hold pressure safely and trap carbonation. Next, I'm going to pour in our ginger beer. We don't want to underfill this because the carbon dioxide the yeast produce will have a harder time dissolving into the liquid. We also don't want to overfill. Leave a little headspace. That's going to prevent explosions and leave some room for the CO2 to build up. Close that up, making sure it has a nice seal. This will sit on my shelf. Depending on how hot it is, this will take anywhere from 12 hours to 3 days. Make sure to release some of that pressure every 12 to 24 hours to prevent buildup, which could cause an explosion. You can also use plastic bottles to ferment your ginger beer. Plastic bottles have a ton of neat features, one of which is they serve as a great pressure indicator. Give your bottle a good squeeze to crimple it while pouring in your ginger beer. I'll show you why later. Plastic bottles are also safer and won't shatter if they overpressure. They're cheap, reusable, and easy to get. Just make sure it's a PET bottle that can handle the pressure like soda bottles. They're not as aesthetic as glass bottles. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me I shouldn't be consuming all that delicious microplastics, but they have a lot of benefits. There's a reason why plastic is so ubiquitous. These will sit on my shelf until they get fizzy. Well, that didn't take very long. It's been roughly 12 hours and this is already fizzy. Having a strong, robust ginger bug will do that, but I think the summer heat is helping a lot. Usually you won't see the active bubbles like this, so that's telling me my glass bottle doesn't have a perfect seal. We're getting those bubbles because gas is escaping somewhere. It turns out these bottles are more decorative than functional, and that's something you want to be careful of when buying swing top bottles. I'll leave a link in the description for some better ones. I gave that a little shake and it's just as I thought. My plastic bottles on the other hand are looking a lot better than I left them. This is rock hard and fully pressurized. That's telling me that it's ready. This will go into the fridge to chill. That's going to slow the fermentation and stop the pressure buildup, so try not to burp it. That CO2 is what gives us the fizzes. My glass bottle isn't sealing properly, so I think I'm going to change it. I notice a lot of sediment in the bottle, so this is a nice opportunity to get rid of that. A strainer and a cheesecloth combo works much better than just a strainer. I have another swing top, it's just as decorative but it has a better seal. I'm adding a little water because I lost some of the ginger beer during the straining process. Seal that up. And that's it. I let this sit on the shelf for a few hours to repressurize. Now, while I wait on that, let's try out something else. A big benefit of keeping a ginger bug is that it makes any sweet liquid fizzy, not just ginger beer. I have this overripe pineapple that's been sitting on my table for a while. That's a delicious pineapple. I also have a watermelon that I got from the farmer's market. And I'm going to use these to make juice. You can use a wide range of fruits, so feel free to play around with it. That watermelon doesn't look like much, but it does have a really good flavor. So for our juice, I'm going to remove the skin, dice them and add ginger. The ginger isn't necessary, but if you're making a Jamaican style fruit juice, ginger is a must. Next, I'm adding a bit of sugar. That's going to be the food for the yeast and sweeten our fizzy sodas. But you can use a lot less than I do here and still get all of that fizz. Next, top those off with some water. These smell really fresh and fruity, and we haven't started blending as yet. Once blended, I'm going to strain these. I'm using the strainer cheesecloth combo because I want really clean juices. Wow, that pineapple juice has a really vibrant color. It almost looks artificial. Next, I'm adding a quarter cup of ginger bug to each juice. You could even use less, like a tablespoon. The microbes will multiply aggressively because we gave them the perfect environment. And our ginger bug is extremely robust, so don't worry about it too much. Next, taste and adjust sweetness to what you like. Keep in mind that the longer this ferments, the less sweet it will be. As I mentioned earlier, the yeast consume the sugars to make more copies of themselves. They give off CO2 gas as a byproduct, and that's what makes our ferment fizzy. What I didn't mention was that the yeast also produce alcohol. There are also other microbes in the ginger bug, like lactic acid bacteria that produces lactic acid. So if we ferment for long enough, we can turn our juice tangy and alcoholic. So if you want a more boozy soda, just let it sit for a few more days and feed it with a bit more sugar. Just make sure to burp it or release the gases regularly so you don't end up with an explosion. Fermenting with wild yeast will probably get you to at most 5% alcohol. That's because the yeast die off or slow down from the higher alcohol levels. They're essentially living in their own waste, and that's never a good thing. Alright, our fruit sodas are all set now, and I even did a few plastic bottles as well. Our ginger beer has been sitting for a few hours and that's also ready. So I'm going to place it into the fridge. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but that is whistling. Usually you add lime or lemon to ginger beer, but I love adding it at the end for the freshest flavor. I like to give my bottles a little shake to bring out the fizz. That is a beautiful glass. I ended up getting better carbonation from plastic bottles because they had a much better seal than the decorative glass ones. Let's give this a taste.
Yush.
Wow, that is it. Even though this is spicy, it's extremely refreshing with the full taste of ginger. It has a little funk from fermentation which makes it more complex, but this is incredible. This is way more delicious than anything I ever bought in the store. That ginger tea added an extra layer of ginger flavor that I really enjoy. This was very fast too. It takes a while to make a strong ginger bug, but once it's ready, your ferments are so much stronger. It has only been 8 hours and these are ready. All my squish bottles are now firm and solid. To be fair, I live in Jamaica where it's warm and it's now summer, so that plays a big role. But either way, these are excellent results. Looks like we have another imperfect seal. You won't always know until your bottle is pressurized, but that is clearly extremely fizzy. I'm just going to place all these in the fridge to chill them down. The reason why chilling works so great is because gases dissolve into liquids much better at lower temperatures. So a cola juice is much better at holding on to carbonation. Some of your sodas will separate if you let them sit. I'm shaking this up to recombine everything. But I forgot that this was a soda and it will still do soda things. Well, that is clearly carbonated. Listen to that fizz. I'm just here wondering why watermelon sodas aren't more of a thing. This is delicious. Pine and ginger with a squeeze of lime is a simple, delicious Jamaican classic that is always good. Carbonation is the only thing that can make this no fuss drink even better. For this whole video, I've been stressing how important it is to burp your bottles so they don't overpressure, and that's for good reason. It can get seriously dangerous. I had a bottle explode because it got too hot and I didn't burp it fast enough. Thankfully, I wasn't in the kitchen when it happened, but it's been days and I'm still finding glass shards in random spots, so please be careful. With all that said, this recipe is still an amazing one to have in your arsenal. You'll be turning your favorite juices into fizzy sodas and soft drinks in no time. I even made fizzy iced tea with my ginger bug. Incredible stuff. I'm Nick and this has been delicious. Check out the links in the description for quality swing top bottles and written recipes. Big shout out to our patrons who keep us cooking. Thanks so much for watching, bless up, and I'll catch you in the next one.